Welcome back. For those of you who have been following my progress in Rapid Games on chess.com, I did break my losing streak, but it wasn't pretty. Let's take a look. Okay, I had 8 mistakes and 4 blunders in this game, and I've already gone through it once and I've kind of figured out where I went wrong, but I'm going to skip most of those blunders and move on to the important ones. My opponent played this non-committal, very small pawn move opening, which is not an actual opening, so I have very little to respond to. And now that's a problem for me. It's difficult for me to play against these types of openings, which seem to be very common at my level. The opponents will just push random pawn moves as I'm trying to play an actual opening, but they're not doing anything that's challenging me or whatever. They're just making moves, and they're making them very quickly. They've played, what are we at, 5 moves in 9 seconds. So they're playing this like bullet or blitz. And I think one of the reasons people do this is to get a time advantage in the first 10 to 15 moves. And I'm trying to figure out what they're doing and how to play against it, and my time is slipping away. But regardless, that was their biggest move up to this point. But I continue to play opening principles since I'm not playing an actual opening anymore due to those pawn moves. I'm occupying and controlling center squares. From here, I have lots of control over center squares and center adjacent squares. I have these pawns backed up by knights this way and by this bishop, and I'm preparing to castle already. My opponent hasn't moved a piece yet. And as you can see, this continued for some time. They've got 5 in a row here. I think if they had accidentally moved this g-pawn only 1 square earlier, then they could play this and they would have 8 in a row. But I guess they didn't think of that. All right, that was counted as my first mistake. At that point, the computer said that I believe it said I should have played e5 here, or queen to e2. I think because I have castled and my opponent has not, Stockfish wants me to go ahead and break open the center here. And several moves after this, some of the mistakes that it counted for me were missing e5. But again, I didn't lose the advantage because of those. I just could have taken a greater advantage, according to the engine. And again, my opponent is not playing committal moves, but they're playing very quickly. Now, on move 11, they're a full minute ahead of me because they're just playing these snap moves, keeping a low profile, and waiting for me to come to them. I decided not to come to them. See what I mean? They've got 7 in a row. If this one was back there, they would have 8. But they messed up. Well, maybe they'll get it next time. Again, I was supposed to have played e5 here. This was the one place of all the places where Stockfish said I should have played e5 that I do understand it. Because this knight is here and it's undefended now. If I play e5 here, I have my battery lined up pointing at that knight. And actually just before that, here, I could have done it too. And then when they're dealing with this pawn in this situation, whether they choose to take or they try to lock the center, I'm able to take that knight. And if they take back, I have my queen back here that can go right there and check, taking out an extra pawn of defense around the king. But again, I missed those and we went on. You can see here that I'm just trying to make slow improvements to my position. I'm trying to make sure every piece is protected. I've got my king to safety. I'm building a little pawn wall across from them. And we went on for some time. And I'm just going to move faster here. Again, we were each making mistakes and blunders as this went on. But none of them took the advantage away from me. Because my opponent played the way they did, I had the advantage almost the whole way through this. Until about move 29. See, that was a huge blunder on their part. You can see the evaluation bar on your side. And I'm just supposed to take this pawn now. And it says they wouldn't even take back. I'm not sure about that. But now this is move 24, 25, 26. That was pretty good on their part. That was their best move. 27. Okay. Now here, I believe it did count my next move as a mistake, but I still kept the advantage afterward. Right now, Stockfish says just leave your queen here. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It wants me to take this pawn. That comes with check. If they take it, I hop in here with my knight and I'm threatening their queen. If they don't take it, if they just move out of check, then I've gotten a free pawn and I can still move my queen. Okay, that's what Stockfish says is the best move right there. Second, it says queen to c1. It says queen to b3. Those are fine. I went a little too far and it counted that as a mistake, but I still have the advantage. And here, they weren't only aiming at my queen, they were also aiming at this pawn, which they're not supposed to take just yet, but they did. Okay, now supposedly I have a huge advantage here, and again it revolves around this pawn, and now it says the knight is actually the better capture. A second ago it was saying the bishop was the best move, but now it says either one's fine, but the knight's better. One's +3, one's +5. But I need to do that. It also says I would still have an advantage if I just went right there and took that knight. I do see that if they took back, then I would get the rook. But I didn't see that during the game. And instead, I did a blunder. I went after their rook with my knight. And this is the first time in the game that my opponent had an advantage. So in the future, I've got to be able to see that this rook is actually technically under attack if I remove the defender. And in this case, I would be going down an exchange very temporarily in order to go up an exchange. And most likely what would happen after I took that is they would move the rook someplace, like maybe here. And then I would take the rook, and then they would take mine, maybe. But then it would come out to be a fairly even exchange, wouldn't it? Knight and a bishop for a rook, a knight and a rook for a bishop and a rook. I can see that in the future. But here, this didn't make a lot of sense in hindsight. It's a simple one-move threat against the rook. I mean, I shouldn't be too worried about it because it is defended, but it does nothing to alleviate the opponent's coming attack. And my opponent did not play the best move here. Their best move here is to actually just take the bishop. But they didn't know that, and neither did I. And they gave me the advantage back by going after a piece that's defended. And here, I blundered again. I'm supposed to take this pawn. Stockfish says that's the only move that maintains the advantage. Even knowing that, even if during the game here, when I have 3 minutes left and my opponent still has 7 minutes left, even if during the game you had sent me an instant message saying your best move, according to Stockfish, is, and even if that was legal and ethical, which it's not, but I don't think I would have played it because I don't understand how that's good. Because I think they're going to take back. That's going to open up a file here coming down toward my king where they already have some control. I don't know. I don't understand that. It says it's +2 if I play that. But I didn't. And I didn't play my next best move, which maintains equality, or this move, which also maintains zeros. Instead, since I had already moved this knight, I guess I was thinking about the knight. And maybe I forgot temporarily that it's protected. But I thought, you know what? If I'm not going to use it over here, I can go take it over there. And I've got a bunch of pieces pointing at these pawns already, and this knight can get to both of them. I guess that's what I was thinking. And I was definitely aware of the time differential, that my opponent's now 4 minutes ahead of me, and I have 3 minutes left. They have more than twice the amount of time left that I do. That's a huge blunder. It gives my opponent -11 if they take this pawn. But they didn't. They can also take this pawn, which is currently undefended. This pawn was defended just a second ago, as was that one. My knight was sitting here defending both those pawns. And then I moved it. So both those pawns are up for grabs. And Stockfish says they can take that one or this one right now, and they would still maintain -6 or better. But if they take down here, it'd be -11. Okay, well, they did one of those. So they're still up -6.5, something like that. And also look at these pieces. They're lining up, coming down this way. Looks very dangerous. So now I definitely need to do this, even though I'm just going to give up my rook for it, because the knight's an important part of this attack. Instead, I did that. I took their bishop, which is -11, because they can take back, and they're still lining up for this. And My best move in this situation, according to Stockfish, is queen to b3, which is, that only maintains -11. Anything else I do makes it worse. And this makes it -16. I could even go here. Stockfish, that's my third best move, is to put my queen right here. Okay, so that's how bad things are. Well, I had gone through all the trouble to get the knight way over there, aiming at these pawns, and they've moved the queen away from defending those pawns, so I decided I'd just chop one off. But that's the blunder that gave my opponent mate in 3. Wait, you're saying, I thought you said you won this game. I did. I put the spoiler at the beginning. My opponent has mate in 3 here, but they have to see that they're going to give away their rook first. And not a lot of people at my level, no matter how many puzzles we solve where queen or rook sacrifices the first move, despite all of that, most of us aren't going to see this. My opponent certainly didn't. If I had seen it, I certainly wouldn't have done that. And that's why Stockfish was saying one of these moves is very important right now. Because the reason the rook needs to clear this pawn off is to get the queen in here. But the queen doesn't need to go in there until, while this pawn is still here. So what my opponent did instead of that was their second best move, which is taking back my knight and threatening my queen. Well, now Stockfish says if it's mate in 10 no matter what I do, if the opponent sees it. But most of us aren't going to see mate in 10. But they ought to be able to see that they have something over here. And right now, I'm supposed to give my queen away. And that's only to make it last as long as mate in 10. If I try to save my queen, it's going to be shorter, much shorter. Well, I didn't even try to save my queen. I just took back the bishop, which was my plan all along. And of course, since neither my opponent nor I had seen this the turn before, there's no reason to expect that either one of us would see it now. But they still have mate in 3 if they'll take that rook. But for whatever reason, maybe they thought I was going to check down here on the back rank, so they moved their king. Remember, they still have almost 7 minutes left, and I'm under 3 now. They're back to -7, no longer with the forced mating sequence. I think maybe the reason now is because from here I think maybe my queen has access to this. Maybe. Because it doesn't work anymore. Because now if they take this, well, now it's my turn, for one thing. And I have to take the knight. Or it's just like a check here. But what I did instead was that. So they have mate in 3 again. Okay. So you see that 3 times in a row I gave my opponent mate in 3. That's what I mean when I say this game wasn't pretty. But my idea here was that this looks like I'm about to attack them, so maybe they'll attack me, and then I'll have check. And with checks, I can work with checks. I also have my bishop hitting here. So again, I don't see them mate in 3. I just know that they're getting close. They have pieces aiming down this way, and they're all coming in around my king. I don't realize they have mate in 3, but I know it might be getting dicey, so I have to start doing something. And taking the initiative worked here. Because my opponent didn't do what they should have done here. They should have taken this pawn first. Instead, they did that. And it looks like they have mate in 1. And that's probably what they thought. But without their queen over here, I now have mate in 3. I don't know if you saw the evaluation bar drop. Let's just do a replay. Watch the evaluation bar. They have mate in 3. But when they move their queen down there, I have mate in 3. And I did the exact, precise, perfect moves here, which is taking there, because this rook is pinned, and my bishop is behind me, and the queen's not here anymore. They moved their queen, so they're not defending that square anymore. So they have to move their king, and I take their rook, and they have to move their king, and that's mate. So that's how it happened. And yes, when they moved their queen, I did see that I had mate in 3. I calculated that out in a few seconds, and I think it's because of solving all those mate in 2 and mate in 3 puzzles. I never did see their mate in 3 down here all those turns, but neither did my opponent. But I did see mine, and that's what made the difference. So I'm going to try to take all of these mistakes and blunders into account, even the ones that I didn't mention here, and hopefully I'll improve going forward. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.